Mr. Taylor, I just wanted to follow up on an earlier question. I believe Chairman Shimkus asked this about food byproducts being used for animal food. In Florida, the citrus industry sells orange peels, as you know, and oranges have fallen off the tree for animal feed. I think there are large environmental and sustainability issues that FDA may be overlooking. If the proposed rule drives up the cost of byproducts diverted to animal feed chain, many small and mid-sized manufacturers will abandon the production of feed ingredients and send the byproducts and the waste streams to landfill. Right. This increases the load on landfills and decreases the available products for animal food feed, thereby increasing the costs. So my question is, will the FDA perform an environmental impact analysis before the final rule? And again, I want to ask this as well. Can FDA quantify the benefits of their proposal?
Sure. So with respect to the environmental impact statement, we are doing an environmental impact statement on the produce rule, and so that will accompany in parallel the rulemaking process, and we'll have that before the final rule. But on this specific issue, it's not our intent, and we're going to work hard based upon input we receive from the community to disrupt these established practices of byproducts of human food production going into the animal feed system. I mean, that's an important part for reasons you've recited of our food system. And so it's not our intent, and we don't think from a food safety standpoint that would be necessary or appropriate. So this is the kind of issue that arises during the rulemaking where we get comments, and I think we'll work to harmonize the produce and preventive control rules to provide, to prevent outcomes that just don't make common sense. I mean, we're guided by common sense here, and I think this is an issue that's very manageable within the FSMA regime.
Okay, very good. Thank you. I'll move on to the next question. With regard to cybersecurity, the proposed rule would require all mandatory records to be made promptly available to the FDA upon oral or written request. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. If the FDA requires these records to be submitted electronically and reviewed remotely, how will the FDA validate that the requests are coming from authorized representatives? And more importantly, can you guarantee that the system will be safe from hackers or leaks?
No. So the first point is that it's a work in progress, and we need to work with the industry to figure out how we exchange information in a way that is most efficient for our collective purpose of protecting food safety. And so this is something we have to do in dialogue with the industry, including with respect to electronic transfer of records. To the extent that records are transferred electronically, we absolutely have to protect the confidentiality of records that are confidential business information. We have a lot of experience doing that with conventional records within our foods program. There's a lot of experience elsewhere in FDA with electronic submission of data and the drug approval system. So I just commit to you, there's no lack of sensitivity to the importance of protecting confidentiality of data. We have a lot of experience doing it, and it's something we'll work with the industry to be sure we do right in this context as well.
All right, thank you. My last question, Mr. Taylor, Florida has a significant number of beekeepers, as do other states. The beekeepers and honey production industries, along with others, have been victims of various illegal trade schemes perpetrated mostly by Chinese exporters. As a result of these trade challenges, a lot of adulterated products such as honey have entered the United States undetected. While imports are the responsibility of Customs and Border Protection, I understand that once adulterated products enter into the stream of U.S. commerce, it becomes the responsibility of FDA. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. I'd like to know that what FDA is doing to combat economically motivated adulteration. FDA's proposed rule on mitigation strategies to protect food against intentional adulteration did not include economically motivated alteration within that rule, and FDA will address it under a separate regulatory scheme. My question is, could you explain to me how FSMA changes FDA's enforcement authority with respect to economic adulteration, and how it will improve FDA's enforcement over economically adulterated products such as honey?
Yeah. Good but complicated question. We will be addressing intentional adulteration for economic purposes in the preventive controls rule. It's a challenge to do that because in that preventive controls framework, we don't want to require the processor to control that which can't be anticipated, which isn't whether you use them reasonably likely to occur or probably, probable to occur. Regardless of the language you use, we've got to sort of focus what we expect of processors. So we had the melamine in pet food problem a number of years ago, which was one of it was imports from China. That sort of intentional adulteration for economic purposes, where you've got a past history of that problem occurring, we think can be addressed through the preventive controls rule. But there's a whole array of economic adulteration issues that are going to have to be addressable through other means as a practical matter. And so we do provide guidance about what's appropriate in certain products. We take limited enforcement action within our resources. If it's not a safety issue, it necessarily ranks lower in our priorities in terms of deploying our inspection and enforcement resources. But there are things we can do and have done, and we know the concerns in the honey industry, and we've had dialogue and look forward to working further to
Can I ask one quick question?
Address that.
Just to follow, has FDA, is there a national standard? Have they created a national standard as far as determining whether there's adulteration?
Well,
if they have not, why haven't they?
Well, there's not a national standard of identity that I think some people have asked us to establish that we have not done to date. There are standards that we've acted on if there are illegal pesticide residues or antibiotic residues, which sometimes happens in honey. We have taken action. We can take action under current law. We don't need any new laws or regulations to take action there. It's more a matter of being able to detect these and invest the resources to do the enforcement actions.
Are you in favor of creating a national standard?
I think in concept, we see the usefulness of it. Frankly, it's a priority and resource challenge for us. And so we're looking at other ways to try to address this. And again, welcome working with the industry.
I really appreciate it, Mr.
Yes, sir.
Thanks for the testimony.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Chair, thanks, gentlemen.